Kate Lincoln-Goldfinch joins us now talking about the H-1B visas and knowing a thing or two about it since it largely involves immigrants. She's an immigration attorney and joins us on the program today. Thanks for joining us, Kate.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
We know there are a lot of immigrants working in this country in various industries, and not being one, I don't know what's involved in going to another country and working other than needing to get the blessing of the government, which I assume comes in the form of these visas that we're talking about. How hard have they been to get, and what does it actually allow them to do?
Well, the H-1B visa, the one, that's been under discussion is it's referred to as the workhorse visa. It's a temporary non-immigrant visa that allows professional people to come and work in the United States. And a big number of the people who have H-1Bs are actually students who have graduated from U.S. colleges and universities, and they get a work permit after they find a job, and then they transition into H-1B. So it's a really valuable program in terms of our economy and our ability to find and place skilled workers, a lot of engineering students, a lot of tech, IT, for example. And there haven't been enough H-1B visas for years. I mean, for years it's been a lottery system where anywhere from maybe 1 in 4 or even 1 in 7 applicants who have a job, they have a U.S. employer, they qualify for the program, apply, and they're not selected just because of lottery reasons. So there's a big limitation on our economic, the nation ability to hire the foreign workers that we need. And we actually lose a lot of U.S. trained workers because they can't get themselves the visa that they need, and they end up going, back home, or they go to Canada, or they go elsewhere around the globe, and it ends up being, what they refer to as brain drain, because we can't get it together as a nation to improve our laws, and we lose good people.
So do you think that Elon Musk got involved with this because for his companies that he owns, obviously many of them, including X and Tesla and more, that he is using some of these people, and they probably love having these jobs, these H-1B positions, right? Because it gives them an opportunity.
It's hard for me to get inside of Elon Musk's head. I don't know why he does what he does, but in this instance, someone who is the owner of a big business or employs a lot of people and, is in an industry involving innovation, would certainly be supportive of this visa. I mean, if you just think about it, it really expands an ability to find the right worker for an important position. It can be difficult and challenging to fill these roles in the United States with the U.S. workforce. And so we're just expanding our ability to find skilled, smart, amazing people is a good idea. It just is. And so I think that is the perspective of probably any employer who needs to hire people on a large scale.
Kate Lincoln-Goldfinch, immigration attorney, joining us talking about the H-1B visas. And in the beginning, defining what it is, you said these visas are available in limited numbers through a lottery system to professional people. Really seems like a general definition. One could say that a Mexican worker who is working on a golf course is a professional landscaper. How do they define professional person?
Well, that would fall under a different type of visa. So there's another type of visa, which is, I think the conversation is similar around that one as the H-2B visa. And that's where there's a seasonal worker would come in, or an agricultural worker would come in at a sort of a lower skilled position. So the H-1B is reserved for highly skilled. You have to have a college degree. There's a few more slots for people who have master's degrees. There are some lower skilled visa programs that similarly suffer the same restrictions and results of the employers not being able to access the visas that they need. And all of this is just, and it's an example of the brokenness of our immigration system. The reality is, as a nation, we need more immigrants on all levels of the skill spectrum, but the laws are limited. And so we struggle and we suffer. But the rhetoric around immigration has been such a drumbeat of immigrant equals drug trafficking and danger and crime and terrorism that we haven't seen politicians like Trump say anything pro-immigration. And so this is a bit of a change in conversation from the Trump team, but it's actually something that I agree with. We do actually need more visa availability on all levels of the skill spectrum. And so this is a departure from Trump's previous statements and actions. And if he is flip-flopping and actually sticks with this one, it might benefit us all.
Well, and maybe he learned that from his, hanging out with his new buddy, Elon Musk. I mean, maybe they talked about how they actually put these visas in place for people to be able to legally immigrate versus being able to just walk across the border. And so I think maybe that's one of the big differences is maybe he's opening his eyes to that and saying, no, this can be a really good thing. It just all falls under legal immigration versus illegal immigration.
Yeah, I certainly hope so. I hope that we are trying to expand legal avenues for immigration. And I think, the issue along the border, there's, of course, asylum seekers. And for 70 years as a nation, since World War II, we've offered protection to people fleeing persecution. And that's gotten pretty convoluted at the border. But a big reason for that is this other thing we're talking about, that we as a nation have this need for workers. We have jobs available to them, and they don't have legal ways to come here and serve that. So another result of expanding legal immigration would be to calm down the request for entry at the border. So I think it's a wise idea all around, and I hope that the Republicans will continue with it. I hope that they will do something expansive and pro-immigration that extends legal immigration options. And I think everyone would be surprised. It would make a huge difference for us.
And it's not just Mexico, correct? I mean, these visas can be given to people from all over the world, right? It's not just Mexico, it can be anywhere.
Of course, yes. Yeah. These visas are available around the globe. Now, one of the things we might see early in the Trump administration is restrictions of people from certain countries. In his first administration, he did certain Muslim travel bans, and there's been talks and threats of that, bringing that back. So we may see that some H-1Bs are restricted under executive orders. I think they're planning over 100 executive orders on the first day in office. So it's going to be a wild ride.
It's going to be a busy day for sure.
Yes.
Now, one argument on the side of supporting these visas is to bring in these immigrants because they're used to not being paid very much. So there's a certain faction of corporate America saying, well, let's do this because they'd be happy with X amount of dollars an hour as opposed to what we'd have to pay somebody who might be born with a sense of entitlement, like say they were born and raised in the United States. So with the H-1B and the other one, was it H-2B?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So is there a monetary number, like you've got to pay at least this much for this visa, you have to pay a worker this much if they've got more of an education, or is there no economic scale attached to any of this?
There is. In the majority of employment visas, there is a requirement that the employer, search the category of this position with the Department of Labor, and they pay the wage that is fair and reasonable for that position, and they demonstrate that they can pay that wage when they make the petition. So there is a lot of that protection already built in. I think what you're saying is true with certainly when we have an undocumented workforce. An undocumented workforce is forced to receive lower wages and worse treatment. And that's, I think an argument for extending legal immigration because it brings everything on the same playing level. It doesn't behoove anyone to have this subclass of people and workers who are exploited. It's not good for anybody.
It's so true. I mean, when you think about that, I mean, it really does make a difference and protect these workers in all kinds of different ways to have this visa versus just walking across illegally. And then you have people that are abusing their gifts, their talents, whatever it is, in addition to a lot of other issues. But it is an interesting topic, that's for sure. It'll be wildly fascinating to see this all unfold coming up here in just a few weeks.
Yes, I'm sure we'll be talking a lot this year.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much for the time.
Thanks, Kate.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me on.
By the way, a lot more information, too. She's got a website, Lincoln-Goldfinch.com.